Hi, this is Dr. Sherelle Perkins. Thank you for joining me. Today, we're going to discuss Servant Leadership 101. And the reason I'm calling it that, because today we're not going to do a deep dive. We're simply going to discuss why I believe servant leadership is the current answer to our social economic situation. Because of technology, we live in a multinational, global, multicultural workspace. We have access to negotiate business across the globe. And I think in order to do this, we need a leadership model that considers the needs of all people. I'd like to give you a visual. Now, if you've had any management courses, you've probably seen the traditional pyramid with the leader on top, starts small and gets bigger, traditional leadership model, a pyramid. So what I want to do is encourage you to flip the pyramid. Stakeholders and employees are at the top of the pyramid. The CEO or leader is at the bottom. Why? Because he serves up. His main objective is to create an organization that empowers everyone in this leadership funnel, this inverted pyramid. Servant leadership revolutionizes leadership models because most leadership models are built on a hierarchy where the person at top makes all the decisions. There's a lot of ego involved. They're not necessarily creating a collaborative, synergistic work environment. At the bottom of the pyramid, you may have employees that are only giving you what you pay for. They're not giving you their creativity. They're not giving you their full energy. Why? There's no place to go. No one is listening. No one is looking to see what might be in every employee. You see, that creative genius might be the person that's working in your warehouse. In the traditional model, you may or may not ever know that. That person may come, go to school, and leave, and you have lost the benefit of one of the most creative minds that exists. A servant leadership model opens the door for you to cultivate every person in your organization. And you say, well, that seems like such a waste. No, my friend. In a servant-led organization, everyone benefits. The employee and the employer. So let's say you're not quite in that position right now, and maybe you don't work for an organization with a servant leadership model. But I believe this model can be used in the home. When we serve as parents, we build the next generation. When we serve as leaders, let's say in a church, we build the next generation. Everyone benefits from servant leadership. It empowers the workforce to be collaborative and innovative. It creates synergy and creativity. It builds an atmosphere where everyone is seeking the best for each other. The competitiveness to undermine the organization and people are diffused in servant leadership because everyone is important. The principles of servant leadership was developed by a man by the name of Robert K. Greenleaf. He pioneered the concept, but he didn't build the model. But he had the foresight to say that there was coming a time that we would need a complete new paradigm shift in how we led. And servant leadership is what he espoused. So if you want to know more about it, you can do some research on Robert K. Greenleaf. His principles was extrapolated by a man by the name of Larry C. Spears. He took from Robert Greenleaf's research 10 key principles that if these were implemented within an organization, the organization would thrive. I'm not going to do a deep dive into these, but I do want you to know what they are today. So give me a minute. Let me find it in my notes. I want to make sure the first one is listening. Servant leaders listen. They seek to understand the needs, the perspectives, and the concerns of others within the organization. Have you ever had a rule made, even in your home, and you think, I don't understand where that comes from? So if you don't have a leader that is a sounding board, the organization will continue to make rules and regulations, implement policies, and not have all of the information. A servant leader wants to actually comprehend and understand what the followers are going through. The next principle is empathy. Servant leaders are empathetic. They have the ability to understand and share in the feelings of other people. They put themselves in that other person's place. And there are times as a leader, you have not experienced what that other person has experienced. But empathy will cause you to consider what this might have felt like had it been your experience. Traditional leadership would say, oh, okay, who cares? Just get the job done. But not a servant leader, because he knows the more he understands about his stakeholders and his employees, the more he's able to meet the need of the organization, and the organization remains a well-tuned instrument. So that brings me to my next point. That's healing. Servant leaders recognize the need of all people for healing. They understand that there are some things that happen emotionally and physically that impact the productivity of their employee. They create an environment where people feel safe, appreciated, respected, that there is a genuine concern about those that they are serving. They are aware, they know what's going on with their employees. They're aware of their surroundings. They are concerned about those that are in the environment. They're aware of the strength of those they serve, but they're also aware of their strengths and their weaknesses. So they realize where they need to develop, where they need maybe even to assign a task that they're not good at, but they know need to be done. They're aware of their weaknesses and their biases. You know, everyone has biases. Everyone has weaknesses. But if I can look at what's going on in the inside of me, and I am authentic and honest, yes, then I can evaluate my responses so that my work environment remains a healing environment. Let's be honest. Things like prejudice, it's because we can see and we've had life experiences. But when I can look at a situation and say, you know what? I'm looking at that based on my history, my social history, then I can get the resources involved in the work environment in order for everyone to feel safe. Persuasion, fifth component. Servant leaders persuade others rather than coerce or control. Sometimes as a leader, it's hard to implement this because people are used to being controlled. But a servant leader learns how to draw out the best in people and to build a team synergy without strict control. They use their influence not to control, but to inspire, to motivate, and to guide. They want collaboration and cooperation, not just compliance. You know, I've had the privilege of being in situations where people have done more than what I've asked for. Why? Because they wanted to. They saw a need, they wanted to fulfill it. There was an atmosphere of cooperation. Conceptualization. Servant leaders have the skill to think strategically and to see the big picture. When you can't see the big picture, it's hard to grow an organization. A servant leader has the ability to analyze a situation, look at potential challenges, opportunities, and develop visionary plans. And in fact, when I was getting my master's degree and studying servant leadership, my employer would often sit with me and we would talk about the things that I was learning because he did not have the same skill set that I did. And although he was a leader, he needed to broaden his vision. The end result was the organization became one of the best places to work for. I believe servant leadership creates those kinds of organizations. The seventh component is foresight, anticipating the future, new trends that are developing, proactively preparing for the future. That's one of the benefits, especially with an intergenerational workforce where you have 5 generations working together. When we are learning from one another, we are more able to meet the challenges and opportunities that are available. This, in turn, builds a long-term sustainability within that organization. Number 8 is stewardship. Servant leaders view their roles as stewards of resources and opportunities. They manage responsibilities while considering the well-being of the individual, the organization, and the environment. And we all know how important it is to steward our current environment. Needless to say, number 9 is commitment to the growth of people. Servant leaders are committed to helping others develop their potential. They create within the organization opportunities for mentorship, partnerships. They foster a continuous learning environment where everyone is growing, everyone is being developed. If there's anything within that organization that's needed, even if they have to bring in outside help, they are more than willing because they understand a commitment to growth. I'll give you an example that I ran into in a leadership capacity. Within the organization, there was a person. They really didn't want to be there. So instead of dwelling on not wanting to be part of that organization, I suggested that they pursue their passion. So while working for the organization, they went on, started a small business, worked that small business in the evening until they were able to sustain themselves, gave their notice, and moved on. But you say you invested in them, you encouraged them. Why? Two things. It developed goodwill. You never know where you're going to meet a person or when you're going to need a person or when that person's opinion of you or your organization is important. Secondly, what if that employee tried it and realized, you know what? I thought that's what I wanted, but I really enjoy my job. How much more committed to the organization will that person be? And while they are working, knowing that you are being considerate of them, how much more will they try to give you their best? So it's important that we remain committed to growth. And also, if we're committed to growth, we're going to look to see how best to use those that are in our sphere of influence. Lastly, building community. Servant leaders seek to build community within the organization and beyond. They realize the significance of relationships. They create environments of trust, collaboration, mutual support, where individuals feel valued and connected. And these are qualities that people take outside of the organization to help build home and community. In fact, each of these 10 principles can be applied whether you are a leader of one or a leader of 1,000-person organization. Servant leadership applies. So I would encourage you. We're going to do a deep dive into some other things regarding servant leadership over the next week. But this was just to give you an overview of servant leadership. So if anybody asks you, can you lead and serve at the same time? I suggest that you give them a quote. Robert Greenleaf said, when asked, servant and leader, can these two roles be fused into one person? In all levels or callings, my sense of the present leads me to say yes to both questions. You can both serve and lead. And the end result is you will build better businesses, better lives. Until next time, This is Dr. Sherelle Perkins. Have a great day.